Welcome to Alpha Marketing, your go-to resource for unlocking the full potential of your small to medium-sized business. Hosted by Aaron Shishilla, CEO of Wolfpack Advising. Now, let's learn how to dominate your market.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marketing Alpha. Today's guest is Lenny Gray, founder and author of D2D Millionaire and a proven expert in face-to-face selling. He's built and trained high-performing sales teams that have generated millions in revenue across multiple industries. He's helped hundreds of reps turn cold knocks into consistent closings. And so if you think door-to-door is outdated or just for hustlers without a plan, Lenny's here to tell you and me that that's incorrect. So, Lenny, welcome to the Marketing Alpha podcast.
Thank you, Aaron. It is. I'm so excited to be here to hopefully debunk a few things about door-to-door that maybe people think they know and maybe they don't, and quite frankly, probably to agree with you on a lot of things that is wrong with door-to-door, because there's plenty of that as well.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stoked. And I'm glad that you're actually open to the conversation, because I feel a lot of people would be like nervous about having the conversation. But honestly, I'm a very open person, so I love having these kind of discussions to be able to kind of hash it out. So I'm really open to you converting my mindset, as well as the mindset of a lot of our listeners here, where they kind of think about door-to-door as maybe something that is should be shied away from. So just to jump into it straight, I want to get your introduction, get your background story and everything else. So give me your quick background story, but then let's jump into like why you think door-to-door is actually necessary and your methodology behind it, maybe why like my beliefs are maybe not 100% accurate.
Got it. So I started back in the late 90s. I was a college kid just looking to make some money so I didn't have to work, during school. And I had a buddy of mine from high school that reached out and said, "Hey, you got to come and do this door-to-door thing. I'm selling pest control." I had never heard of pest control. I didn't even know that was a service, number one. Number two, even if I would have known that, we couldn't have afforded it even if we tried. So if we, had an infestation of cockroaches, it wouldn't have mattered. So we would have probably tried to do it ourselves. But beside the point, I actually didn't believe my friend, and I said, "There's no way. I think this is just completely, made up. You don't go sell pest control and make 20, 30, 40 grand. Again, this is back in the late 90s. I just didn't believe it. So I said, "Why don't you go do it? And if you can vouch for it and it's legit and you get paid, I will consider it next summer." And so my buddy called me at the end of the summer. "I made 30 grand. I'm going to be managing a team next year in Birmingham, Alabama. You need to come and join me and be on my team, blah, blah, blah." And you know what? I said, "Okay, we'll do it." So my wife and I we packed up our Nissan Altima, everything that we owned darn near, and we drove across the country to Birmingham, Alabama. And lo and behold, I was the top rookie for Orkin Pest Control. Sold just shy of 500 new pest control accounts in about 4 months. Made about 50 grand, and that is how the story started. Almost 3 decades ago, crazy enough.
Wait, so you made 50 grand in 3 months?
It was probably closer to 4, but 3.5, 4 months. Yeah, in 98. So I don't know what that converts to, but I imagine it's a lot.
That's probably $1 million with today's inflation.
At least $1.5 million, at least. So.
Dude, that's absolutely amazing. And it honestly, at the beginning, the way like you kind of said it, I kind of get that same feeling. Like it kind of seems like a Ponzi scheme, and in the way that it's pitched, or like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people do, right? I think there is that skepticism for a number of reasons. Whether it's a personal experience you've had, like somebody's knocked on your door and he's just been a real creep, and can't hear no, and just continues to press and bother you. There's a lot of wrong ways to do door-to-door. I don't doubt that for a minute. In fact, the company I was trained for, just to give you an idea, when I first started, they gave me a manual, and it was about 10 pages long. And it was nothing, right? I read the thing. I had it memorized my first week, and this is everything I was supposed to know about knocking doors. And it scratched the surface. So I think there was a lot of the main reason. Here's what I think, Aaron. The main reason there wasn't a lot of content, and even in today's world, there's been hundreds of thousands of people knocking doors over the last 3 decades, but there's still not a ton of content out there. And I think primarily is because a lot of the super successful reps are they might say that they're afraid to share their secrets because they don't want to give out their tricks of the trade and they don't want people to be as successful as them. I actually think a lot of them that aren't very forthright aren't doing it ethically, actually. And I think they don't want people to know what they're doing.
Oh.
So that's my personal belief. I don't have a whole lot of context on that, but I do know there's people in companies that are like, oh, nobody talks to Joe. He's the top guy in the world. Nobody talks to him about, he doesn't knock doors with anybody. He doesn't do any training. He just does his own thing. It's like, well, I mean, why? Why wouldn't you want to share your success, especially with your own company? I don't get that.
Mm-hmm. So my two hard questions at the beginning of this are going to be like number one, do you think door-to-door is still relevant today in today's market with like so many, like obviously I'm a digital marketing agency, so I'm going to lean more towards digital marketing, and how does that play into the digital marketing world? And then you mentioned something interesting there for me, which was like they're not doing it ethically. I think a lot of people would think like door-to-door is already kind of like annoying. So what would you describe as like your approach to it versus somebody that's not doing ethically?
Yeah, let's start with your first question. So I wrote my first book, D2D Millionaire, back in 2012. I think it was released in 2013. And I've written 3 other books since then. So I've kind of been thrown into the world of consulting, and I've currently consulted for 33 different home service verticals. So not just pest control. Even though I have pest control companies, that's kind of been my thing. For the last, 15 years darn near, I have coached anything from roofing and gutters to garage doors to landscaping, lawn care, pool cleaning, carpet cleaning, you name it. If it's a home service, I probably helped coach a company on how to incorporate a door-to-door program into their business to grow. I will say this, my company doesn't just do door-to-door exclusively. Where I think door-to-door is headed, Aaron, is I don't think it's something that somebody should just put all their eggs in that basket, nor should they with digital marketing or billboards or mailers. I think a nice collective mix of a lot of different ways to capture an audience and to capture customers, I think that's the most that's the best strategy, I think, overall. I think door-to-door should be a piece of home service companies' growth, but I don't think it should be the only one. And we're finding, especially when private equity money is coming in, strategics are coming in, buying up companies, if a company is just strictly door-to-door, they're not going to get the valuation that a company that's more well-rounded is going to get anyway. So I think there's, door-to-door can devalue to a certain extent, but it also can increase value because there's not really a quicker way to grow and to consolidate to make your company more efficient than through door-to-door as well. So that would be my answer to the first question. I don't know if you have a follow-up question to what I just said before I go on to question number 2, but that would be the answer to question number 1.
You're good.
Okay, so question number 2, when we talk about ethics and how to do door-to-door, in my opinion, what happens is if you don't have the right training, it doesn't matter what kind of service you have. It doesn't matter how many stops you can do in a day and all these things. Like I think most business owners, when they think about door-to-door, they're like, let me figure out the recruiting and hiring piece first. But if you don't have a system, an SOP in essence, to teach reps how to be successful, then you throw all these resources into recruiting and hiring. If reps don't go out and are successful and are doing it the right way where they can feel good about how they're doing it, they're not lying, cheating, stealing their way to sales, then nothing else matters, because if a rep's not successful, they don't taste success, they're going to leave. They're gone. So the right kind of training, the right kind of program for reps, that's what's missing in most businesses, because we can all only be told, we get a lot of the training nowadays that's more mindset, which is important, or the physical part. Like, you need to take this many cold plunges and you need to eat this many macros. Like, really, that stuff's great for personal, but does it really help you to become better on the doors? Like, I just don't think so. I think it's substance. It's actually like, this is what you say when somebody says, I need to talk to my wife, or this is what you say to effectively close somebody, to overcome, different concerns, pricing concerns. Like, there's a system that I've developed where I break it down. I call it sales flow. And this sales flow goes through every circumstance you're going to get while interacting with a customer, and not even just on the doors. Like, my CSRs at my company, my technicians, they all know my sales flow process, because it's the best way to find success to closing deals.
Well, I just want to go back. I disagree. I feel like the cold plunges are definitely going to help me sell more. At least that's what all the gurus say.
I mean, the cold plunges, the macros, how many push-ups you can do in a minute, like all those things are, yeah, if you got your Segway on, like all those things are probably way more important than I give them credit for, I'm sure. So what do I know, right?
So going back then, like you mentioned those guys that are top tier, maybe they're not doing it ethically. How is your approach? How would you classify it as being different in your method versus maybe some guys that are pissing off the neighborhood, so to speak, right? Or not doing it ethically? Where would you draw that
Yeah.
line, or how would you describe that?
Well, I think the first thing is the proof's in the pudding, right? Like you look at what I've got out there. I've got 4 books about what I do. I've got hundreds of videos on a YouTube channel. I've got thousands of hours of content in social media to basically, I got a newsletter, it's a free newsletter that I give out weekly sales tips on how to do door to door. Like I don't leave any stone unturned. And I'll tell you, Aaron, and I'll just give you a little taste. Okay, a little taste, because this happened to me when I first started. So I'm knocking doors with one of the experts at the company that I used to work for back in the day, Orkin. It was actually a marketing company that worked with Orkin. And I'm knocking doors with this person, and this guy keeps knocking on doors saying, yeah, we service the Johnsons down the road, blah, blah, blah. And so then he's like, okay, I want to see you do a few doors. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, where the Johnsons live, just so I know, so I can make sure I point and I know. And he's like, dude, there's no Johnsons out here. He's like, but I'm sure somewhere there is, and it doesn't matter anyway. And I'm like, well, that's lying, number one. But number two, I don't think this person actually understood the power of name dropping. Like the power of name dropping is if I go to somebody's door and I know somebody that they know, they're going to inherently treat me more favorably. So it's not just making up a name or saying, hey, we have trucks in the area or this, that, and the other. But if I can legitimately say, hey, I was just talking to Matt and Jessica next door, and the reason I'm out here, like all of a sudden, because they know that I know who they know, they are going to treat me more favorably. And that's the power of name dropping. So sometimes I think people who think they're experts in it and they say things because that's the way they've been trained, not because it's right, they just don't understand the concepts behind it. Everything that I do and say, I have data and I have just proven strategies that have worked for, again, decades now, that are going to be a way that reps can sell, and they can sleep well at night knowing that, hey, I was doing it the right way. I'm not just making things up. I'm not lying to people.
So for those people then and you make a very valid point, like, and that's probably 100% true, that a lot of them are just kind of name dropping somebody that's in the neighborhood, or not even like they actually live in the neighborhood. Because I don't know if I know like every neighbor's name, but how impactful that is. But for those people that are considering going door to door, whether they're a home service company, pest control company, or even how we were talking a little bit earlier, how there's a lot of home inspectors that listen to this particular podcast. Like if you had to say like this particular approach, and I've heard you talk about it before, is like, for these businesses, I would knock on these houses. How do you decide or even get started on like just a quick win for getting into door to door to say, I'm going to knock on these particular houses, like choosing a neighborhood, for example, and then what's your approach to that particular neighborhood?
If you want a cheat code, okay, and I'm going to drop this on Aaron and your audience because Aaron's the man, okay? Here's my cheat code to those of you that are like, maybe door to door, like maybe you wouldn't be caught dead doing it, but you're like, well, everybody else is doing it, maybe I need to jump in. Here's the first thing that I would do if I had a company and I had an existing customer base. I would knock the next door neighbors of every one of my customers first. Because now not only do I have a name drop, now I can name drop somebody who I just spoke to who's not a customer. That's still truthful, but I don't say they are a customer. I just say, hey, I was just talking to so-and-so next door. But if I can say, hey, Kathy and Pat next door, they've been customers of ours for 4 or 5 years now. The reason I'm out here today, and I kind of have this whole 5-step, initial approach pitch, not that we could get into, but the idea is, I think if you went to the next door neighbors of every one of your customers that you currently have, I think you would see the power of door to door and how that could help your company grow. And it helps your company become more efficient too. Because now if you're a route-based business, now you've got customers on the same street. You can get to more houses quicker. You don't have as much windshield time. You're not burning fuel, tires, all the expenses that go into traveling from appointment to appointment. Now you're consolidating, and that's just making your company better and more efficient.
And you mentioned in today's world, like especially having a mixture of different like marketing or advertising revenues, whether it's billboards or like the digital advertising or general marketing stuff. How does door-to-door play into that? And in terms of return on investment, where do you see door-to-door fitting in? When should a company opt for it versus not compared to the other ones, in your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, there's a couple things about this, Aaron, that I think are important for business owners to understand. The first thing is, if you think you're going to just go hire somebody out of Utah to do your door-to-door program, and you're going to do it at a rate that you're used to spending on marketing, it's not going to happen. Like the rates right now to hire a door-to-door program are ridiculous, like dollar for dollar on first-year contract agreement, for instance, in pest control, if not more. And so I'm more on the camp of saying, let me teach business owners how to run their own program and do it with a budget that's reasonable. And then they can determine, okay, the cool thing about door to door is I can take my market. Let's say, one of the markets we're for my pest control company is in Boston. And I can go into Boston and I can say, okay, to make my company the most efficient possible with a route-based company, this coming year, 2025, I need 323 accounts in Southborough. I need 172 in Westborough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can deploy door-to-door reps to those specific markets. I can hit the exact number and move them on to the next market. And that's what makes door-to-door so powerful, because you literally, if you have the right people, you have the right process, you have the right training, the SOPs, you have all that stuff in order, it's literally a lever that you can just pull, and you can open it and you can close it, and then you can fill in the gaps where maybe your digital marketing is like capturing people, and you can geofence those type of things. I understand that. But if you want to do it in a super fast and efficient way, there's nothing as quickly that can do that like door to door.
That makes a lot of sense. So for those people that are getting started, do you think that first step for them, that maybe they're not comfortable in doing that, is just knocking? It sounds like that would be like doing the neighbor's house. Like if you just were at one particular house, maybe having like some type of door handle thing that goes on, some placard or something.
Sure. In the pest control industry, it's called clover leafing. We've all, if you're in pest control, you've heard that. And we all want to get our technicians, right? We think our technicians, they just go out and talk to the next. Technicians aren't going to do it. Okay. You're looking for a unicorn there. Technicians, they have the mindset that I want to just knock on somebody's door. They're going to have a smile. They're happy to see me. They're waiting for me to go and service their house and pet their dog and smile and be friendly. That's what technicians do. I can count on one hand in darn near 25 years that I've owned a pest control company that we found a technician that's actually really good at selling and not just being a fantastic technician. So you kind of got to separate those two. As much as people try to have technicians do it, I don't care. We could give out hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bonuses to technicians to go knock on doors or do leave behinds and that. And most of them, they'll just look at us sideways like, there's no way. I'm not going to do that. And again, they're just wired differently than salespeople. So, and you might be your service, your home service company, you might have started and your background is more technical. And so the thought right now, you're listening to this and you're about to turn it off because you're like, there's no way and you know where that I'm going to ever knock a door. I would never do that. Well, then let me teach you how to find people that will. And how to compensate them, how to put together a compensation plan, and how to put together a strategy for where they want to knock and how they want to knock, and how to actually build a program. You don't necessarily have to. Is it great if a business owner can go out and knock doors and kind of get a sense of what it's like so they can be maybe more empathetic to reps that they have, and they can talk to reps in the same language that they use? Sure, that can be helpful, but it's not 100% mandatory either.
Moving in for like those sales reps that are going to knock on these doors, a lot of what I do is like integrating CRM systems with their scheduling softwares, field routes, or other like home service based systems, how do you recommend for these reps to like actually track their sales, the houses that they're visiting, and then track the return on investment? Are you guys using like, do you recommend a CRM for that, or like how would you go about that?
There's a lot. There's a lot out there, a lot of really good ones nowadays. I mean, just to give you an idea, Aaron, when I first started knocking, I didn't have a cell phone, for crying out loud, right? Like I didn't have that, let alone a CRM that tracked everything that I was doing. Here's what's important to me. And again, depending on what somebody's doing, I could give a different recommendation for one company to another. And I've got a lot of connections in this world. And I'm not married to just one CRM that I say, oh, you 100% have to use this as your canvassing tool. But I will say this. There are specific measurables and KPIs that sales reps should track. It's a math equation in my mind. And it does not start here. It does not start with how many doors did you knock. And most companies that do door-to-door track how many doors did a rep knock. I think that's the most irrelevant stat. It's the biggest wasted movement in door-to-door. Who cares how many doors you knock? I've never made any money knocking on a door. Like, I actually have to talk to somebody. So the first thing we measure is how many prospective buyers are you talking to an hour. The number is 7 in the pest control industry, if anybody wants to know. Okay, if you can contact 7 people an hour and you're talking to, let's say, you're knocking roughly 7 hours a day, we round up to 50 and we say, hey, the target for pest control is talk to 50 prospective buyers a day is what you want to get to. And then what you start to track is how many of those buyers qualify for your time. I have 5 key qualifiers that basically I reverse engineered every door-to-door sale I've ever made and said, one of these 5 things happens, if not multiple ones, for people that I sell. So now you have your qualifying ratio. After your qualifying ratio, you have your closing ratio. How many of those people that you qualify, you actually close? Then you're also obviously going to have a pin that you're dropping if you're measuring your success on how many of those people that you closed canceled. Like, what's your retention like? We have numbers for that as well. And then I might have an extra pin that's whether it's a callback or comeback appointment, or maybe a pin that tracks people that I would call a never knock in our company. And that means somebody who, you knock on their door, they pull a gun on you or want to fight you or something, and you're like, I don't want anybody to go back to that house. So we label that as a never knock to make sure nobody went and knocked on that door again.
Have you ever had something crazy like that happen to you?
I don't think I haven't had just about anything happen to me knocking doors, Aaron. I mean, I've been doing it I still do it. Like, I'm still knocking doors with my reps and people I consult for. So I'm still very relevant to doing door to door. And yeah, I've probably seen and heard it all, and this is what it is.
100%. Yeah. Do you think going into the future of door to door and like what happened with COVID, what do you think has changed since COVID has happened? Now we're 5 years from COVID. And what do you think the future of door to door kind of looks like?
Yeah, I mean, one of our best years in door to door was the COVID year, right? Because everybody's home, so that made it really nice, and everybody's home, and they're a lot more observant of bugs, let's say, right, or whatever. Their paint. If we had painters, I've consulted with painters. It's like, oh my gosh, we should be painting the basement right now. So I think door to door actually exploded in 2020 and 2021. At least it did for us and a lot of my clients. I think now things are getting back to a little bit more normalcy where people are going to work again. But again, I would say that the door to door, if I've been doing it since 1998, for crying out loud, the only time we've ever spiked is during the housing crisis, because people were losing their jobs, and now during COVID and pandemics, it's like it just gets better when like things get worse for whatever reason. So I'm like, just any old normal year, like let's say 2025 now, it's like, why wouldn't you want to go knock doors? It's been proven, and we're not just talking about some new concept here. It's 3+ decades old as far as people doing it in the home service industry to any extent.
Are we going to eventually have AI robots that knock on doors for us, Lenny? Is that on our horizon?
Let's hope so. I mean, that was actually my dream. When I was knocking, I think it was my 2nd or 3rd year for Orkin, and I'm like, I could do so much more if I could just train a robot to go do what I used to do. There was this movie, it's well before your time. A lot of the old school guys like me will know this, but it's called Multiplicity. And Multiplicity is like this guy like replicated himself. And one of his personas went to work, and one was more the relationship with his wife. One liked to just drink beer and watch football or whatever. And it was like, this dude got so much done because he had a bunch of like mini hymns. I would love that. Like, I would love if I could train a robot to go knock doors and just do and say the things that I taught it to do. I think that'd be awesome.
I think if that was like in mass, I think door to door probably would get a really bad rap if there were just a bunch of robots walking all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen iRobot. Yeah, there'd be the skeptics out there, no question.
Yeah. All right. So, heading off here, for a person that's a skeptic, like I am or was, because I definitely could see a lot of value in door to door. If there is one thing you had to like leave them off of like, hey, this person's a skeptic, you know, what would you tell them? Like, obviously they should read your book, right? But what would you tell them if somebody's like, or they approach you and they're just like, hey, I don't know if this works. I mean, tell me why I should care.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you look at any home service industry right now. If you're in home services, you've got competitors that are out door knocking. And there's a difference between door-to-door sales and door-to-door marketing. I will tell you that. So if you've got people that are maybe more or less likely to be a sales type of a person closing deals, I mean, you can market door-to-door. I've done that for several companies. You've got setter closer models, like for more big ticket items where you go out and you have somebody just generate leads and then the closers come in. So there's a lot of different ways to do door-to-door. But in any home service industry, I guarantee you have some of your competitors that are doing it. So what I would want to do is I would want to learn the right way to do it. That's what makes what I do different, I think, Aaron, in a large part, because I'm not just really good at door-to-door sales. I actually own a home service company and I have for about 25 years. So I look at it like a business owner first and then a door-to-door rep second. So I need to make sure my door-to-door team is putting on quality accounts, because that's where companies get burned. If their sales teams aren't trained correctly, they don't have the right content, then yeah, I'd be skeptical too. So if you have the right people and the right structure, the right SOPs, if you have all those things in order, then any company can really do door-to-door well.
So if those people are like, they want to take that first step, Lenny, how do they learn more? How do they reach out to you? What's the best way to kind of connect or get started?
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff for free, Aaron, and that's how passionate I am about door-to-door, like teaching it. I hold a monthly webinar for business owners. You can go to my website, lennygray.com. You can learn more about my webinar. I have a free 15-minute consult call. I'll give any business owner in any industry that wants to talk to me for 15 minutes, and we can kind of explore what that looks like. I have an app that's 100% free. It's called Ask Lenny. Every sales rep in your organization should have my app, because it gives all free advice on what to do in any kind of situation. Cold calling, certainly door-to-door, but also, even answering phones. These concepts, they go across the state lines of, is it just door-to-door content or is it actually just sales content? So my websites, lennygray.com is a great place to start. My app, Ask Lenny, my books, as you mentioned, those are great places. The YouTube channel, the social media stuff, you find me everywhere on social media. Everything's free there. Maybe the books you've spent a little bit, but really most of the stuff that I put out there is free, because I really want to elevate the industry. I really just want to teach people how to do door-to-door the right way, how to teach business owners how to set up a door-to-door program that'll work for them.
Awesome, Lenny. Well, thank you so much for being on Marketing Alpha. I appreciate it. Until next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Alpha Marketing. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other business owners and marketers. Your support enables us to continue bringing you actionable advice and the tools you need to thrive. Join us next time for more insights with Aaron Shishilla, and keep striving to be the alpha in your market.